We live in a world that's always telling us to be louder, right? To shout to get noticed. But today, we're going to explore a pretty radical idea. What if the most powerful way to actually make an impact is to be quiet? We're diving deep into how restraint, not volume, can totally transform your writing. And, as we're about to see, maybe even move a few mountains. This quote right here, it perfectly captures what we're talking about. And to really get what it means, we need to go back in time to a single, quiet act of defiance that did exactly that. It changed the world. So, let's set the scene. We're in Montgomery, Alabama. The date is December 1st, 1955. A 42-year-old seamstress, a woman named Rosa Parks, has just wrapped up a long day at work. She's tired and she's boarding a city bus to just go home. Okay, so you have to remember the context here. Under the awful segregation laws back then, the first 10 seats on the bus were for white passengers only. Rosa Parks, she was sitting in the very first row of the colored section. As the bus started to fill up, the driver, a man named James Blake, demanded that she and 3 other black passengers get up and give their seats to a white man who had just gotten on. The other 3 passengers, they stood up. But Rosa Parks? She stayed right where she was. Just think about that for a second. In that moment, with all that pressure, her response was stillness. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't start an argument. She simply held her ground. The driver then threatened her. He told her he'd have her arrested. And her reply, it was so calm, so direct, and just completely unshakable. She just looked at him and said, "You may do that." This wasn't some burst of anger. This was a moment of deep, quiet conviction. She actually said later, "The only tired I was tired of giving in." And here it is. This is the perfect example of our whole idea today. Her quiet act of refusal didn't just cause a scene on a bus. No, it ignited an entire movement. Her arrest set off this immediate, massive response from the Black community, and it became the catalyst for one of the most important civil rights protests in all of American history. And get this, for 381 straight days, tens of thousands of people refused to ride the buses in Montgomery. This incredible, coordinated resistance, all of it sparked by one woman's quiet no, eventually led to the Supreme Court declaring that bus segregation was unconstitutional. One woman, staying seated, literally moved an entire nation. So how in the world does this powerful moment in history connect to us as writers? Well, it's because every writer, in their own way, faces that very same bus. So yeah, what's the connection, really? How does this one act of defiance from decades ago have anything to do with the words we're trying to put on a page today? The answer is in this idea I like to call quiet power. Quiet power is basically the art of making a huge impact through subtlety, through conviction. It's knowing that a single true sentence, delivered without all the bells and whistles, can hit a reader way harder than pages and pages of loud, dramatic writing. Let's really think about the difference here. Loud writing, it tries to force an emotion on you. It's the writing that shouts, that over-explains everything, that's littered with exclamation points. But quiet power, it does the exact opposite. It creates space. It trusts you, the reader, to connect the dots and to feel the truth on your own. It doesn't push you away. It pulls you in. This whole craft is really built on 4 pillars. First, restraint. Saying less to mean more. Then, precision, making sure every single word earns its spot. Conviction, writing from a place where you truly believe what you're saying. And finally, and this one's huge, trust, having the confidence that your reader is smart enough to get it without you spelling it all out for them. Okay, so how do we actually do this? Well, we can use a model that's inspired directly by what Rosa Parks did. It's called the Refusal Framework, and it's a simple 5-step guide to putting that quiet power into your own work. First up, you have to recognize, just like Rosa Parks recognized the daily, grinding injustice of segregation, a writer has to identify the hollow trends, the cliches, the inauthentic voices in their own field, and in their own writing. You have to ask yourself, what am I writing just because I think I'm supposed to? The second step is to refuse. This is where you take action. You have to stop participating in whatever you know isn't true to your vision. It means hitting that delete key on the sentences that are just there for show, the ones that are performing instead of actually communicating something real. This is all about reclaiming your integrity as a writer. All right, next you remain. And honestly, this is the hardest part. Just like Parks stayed seated even when she was threatened with arrest, you have to hold on tight to your truest, most honest sentences. You know the ones. That one line of stark dialogue, that simple, quiet observation. You have to keep them even when they feel risky or out of step with what everyone else is doing. This is where real conviction is made. Step 4 is all about the ripple effect. By choosing restraint, you're actually creating an open space for the reader to come into your work and have their own emotional experience. Your quiet confidence becomes this invitation for them to lean in closer, and that right there, that's where the real transformation begins. And finally, step 5, you rebuild. You take those powerful, quiet moments, those seated sentences, and you start to structure your entire piece around them. They become the anchors, the load-bearing walls of your work. This ensures that what you've built is designed for deep resonance, not just for some cheap, fleeting effect. So let's pull all this together. Let's talk about how you can start making your own words truly unmovable. Look, the most important point here is this. We've all been taught that to make an impact, you need intensity, more drama, more volume. But the real insight, the kind of contrarian view, is that restraint actually creates a much deeper, more lasting transformation than spectacle ever could. Truth just doesn't need to shout. So here are a few things you can try, like right now. Go through something you've written and find your seated sentence, that single line that feels the most honest. Then, take a scene where you know you're trying a little too hard and just strip out all the dramatic language. See if the silence makes it stronger. And finally, do a quick volume audit. Question every single exclamation point you've used. In the end, this whole thing really comes down to one single question, not just for your writing, but for your life. It's the exact same question Rosa Parks answered on that bus back in 1955. What is the one truth that you are so committed to that you're willing to stay seated for it no matter what? Find that, and you, my friend, will find your quiet power. Thanks for tuning in.